everybody. Clayton and Stephanie gets here again for another episode of Proximity Podcast, where we just enjoy getting in the room with men and women that are where we want to be. So welcome. We are super excited to have Jordan and Kristen Kemper with us today, who are, I don't know them personally. Stephanie, you know them, but I was just reading your bio, and I'm so excited about chatting with you guys today. So thanks for carving out. I know you're busy, and you're how many kids do you have, by the way?
We have one.
You have one. Okay, one. So busy mama, busy dad, and business professional. So you got a lot going on. So thank you for carving out some time to hang out with us today.
Yes. So I'm going to get into a little bit. I want to share their bio. I think it's important to share a little bit of background so that the audience knows why they should want to learn from you, because success always leaves clues. And so a little bit about Jordan and Kristen Kemper. They are a dynamic duo based in Tampa, Florida. They've been inseparable since 2015, and they have the most amazing dating story, which I can't wait I hope we get into that. They're blessed with a vibrant 4-year-old daughter, Kinley, who adds joy and laughter to their entrepreneurial journey. Both Jordan and Kristen are passionate about empowering high achievers to win in areas that money can't buy. Kristen is the mastermind behind Oh Hey Vacay and has revolutionized the way people travel. Her innovative online course teaches individuals how to leverage their everyday spending for free travel. A fervent advocate for holistic wellness and an avid gardener, Kristen's passions extend beyond business. She cherishes creating unforgettable memories and experiences for their family, making every moment count. Jordan is a best-selling author, an electrifying speaker, and performance coach. He has inspired audiences worldwide. His powerful messages have reached up to 20,000 people at a time, sharing stages with renowned personalities like John Maxwell, Dr. Oz, and Tony Robbins. His work is featured on ABC, CBS, Fox, and NBC, and he is committed to equipping leaders to excel in their personal and professional lives without compromising their core values. Gosh, I love all this. Jordan's best-selling book is Red Key Revolution, right, Jordan? Red Key Revolution. And is about redefining success for a life of significance. Through his personal story of sexual purity, he teaches readers that the purest decisions in life are the ones we make on behalf of others, even before we know their names. That makes me emotional reading that. Recognized as one of the top 30 under 30 in the direct sales industry, Jordan's entrepreneurial prowess is undeniable. With Kristen's unwavering support, they have built multiple teams, each boasting over 10,000 members and have generated sales surpassing 100 million. Jordan's strategic insights have been sought over by 25 Fortune 500 companies, including industry leaders like Nike, MasterCard, and Capital One. Together, Jordan and Kristen Kemper are a testament to the power of faith, family, and unwavering determination. They continue to inspire and impact lives, building God's kingdom with passion and purpose. So
awesome.
It's so awesome.
I thought I was cool until I read Jordan. Until I read their resume. I was like, oh.
You thought you accomplished something until.
So awesome.
So with all that being said, would you share a little bit about who is Kristen Kemper? Who is Jordan Kemper? If you wouldn't mind taking a minute to share your individual stories. And then I'd love to hear the story of how you guys came together.
Yeah, absolutely.
Both personally and professionally.
No, thanks for having us, guys. The bio, did a good job, but to be honest, like my pride and joy is being a mom. And so for me, if I were to say, who am I? I'm a Christ follower and I'm a mother and I'm a wife. And so to me, those are that's what means the most to me. As you mentioned, I do teach people how to travel for free. And then we do have a team together as well in our network marketing business. But yeah, I think that's probably it.
Yeah. I'm from Chicago originally. I was dreaming of being a doctor. I went to Wheaton College. I did the pre-med thing. I was a 2-sport athlete. And I feel like all of our life experiences kind of prepare us into the person we are today, right? And so I never wanted to go into direct sales, but my entrepreneurial journey started as a 22-year-old. And so I look back over these last 17 years and I feel like all of the people and the life experiences have just been so valuable. So I really enjoy the entrepreneurial background that we have. But as Kristen said, as we look at our priorities and what matters most to us, it's God, it's family, it's friends, it's relationships. And so we have a passion for teaching people how to be successful in business. But more than that, it really comes down to a life of significance. And that's what we really feel people want.
So is it sort of more like you teach people how to have success so that they can enjoy more of the core principles that you talk about of faith, family, friends, that sort of thing?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if you think of what success is adding value to yourself. Significance is adding value to others. And so we believe that success is important, but as we figure out ways to add value to others, I think that's where the business success actually is a side effect. I think you actually see more monetary success as you find ways to serve more people. And so we have no problems with monetary success, but we just know that deep down what people most want is that fulfillment.
Yes.
And impact in our circles and real estate and network marketing, impact tends to equal income, right? So yeah. That's really cool. How'd you guys meet?
So the short answer is Twitter.
I love this story.
X.
I think we and Donald Trump kept Twitter alive for a while. Interesting, just being in direct sales and stuff, I was on all the social media channels, and I met Kristen when I was 29. So I was a little later in life, if you will. And I don't know, it was just crazy. Kristen was so beautiful, and I thought she was captivating on social media. But admittedly, I had been catfished in the past, and most people may not even know what that means, but somebody kind of a fake persona. And so I wasn't sure if Kristen could actually be real. And so oddly enough, I kind of stalked her on social media for a couple of months.
He not kind of stalked me. He absolutely stalked me. He tweeted me. He followed me on Instagram. He friended me on Facebook.
That's amazing.
Hit it from all angles and just slowly just would send me messages, and I slowly would not respond at all.
And here we are.
And it worked.
Well played, Jordan.
Yeah.
Fortune really is in the follow-up, and our marriage is an example of that.
I love it. Yes, there you go. There you go.
Yeah, I absolutely was. But Kristen and I were both in a place in life where we were content being single. We were open to being in a relationship, but we were very happy with where we were both at in life, and we were trusting that the Lord would guide us in His timing. And so there was never a pressure or a sense of urgency, if you will, on the relationship. So we were both kind of just, developed a bit of a friendship, and most of it was long distance. And then finally I got her phone number, and I was old school. As soon as I got the phone number, I called her and I wanted to hear her story. And that first conversation, I could tell there was something really different about her. And so fast forward, that ended up me coming down to Tampa and having the chance to meet her. And what did you say after our first meeting?
I said, he will be a nice friend. After we hung out, I was like, he will be a nice friend.
Clayton's shaking his head like that's something no dude wants to hear.
Friend zoned him. I totally friend zoned him. And so a couple weeks later, he's like, what are you doing in a few weeks? I said, I'm going to Seattle for a business conference. And he said, well, great. My sister lives there and I've been meaning to visit. I will fly out and then we will spend time together. And then you can do your business conference stuff. And so by the third day of our time together there, I walked up to my hotel room and I was like, I'm going to marry him. Wow. It was a total 180. And I just knew. And so 8 months later, we were engaged. And then 6 months after that, we were married. And now it's been about 8 years of marriage.
So what's just curious, what was the shift from friend zone to I'm gonna marry this guy?
Yeah. So we spent 3 days together in Seattle, half days, because I had other things that I was doing. And it was kind of a slow process. I feel like the Lord was kind of softening my heart towards him. And then on the third night when we had dinner, he shared with me his Red Key story, which is what he talks about in his book. And I just could tell that his faith was so sincere, and he didn't just know about God. Like, he deeply loved the Lord and was sold out for the Lord. And that was of the utmost importance to me, you know, when looking for a spouse. And so we just like, it was conversations like that that I could just tell, like, I don't know, he was the one. It was like all these little things that just kind of came together, and it was like a when you know, you know. And I think that's such a cheesy saying, but it was almost just like this light switch. You know?
I would agree. That was I knew when I met Clayton.
Are you crying?
I am. It makes me emotional. I had the same. I knew, and it's. I always heard that, but you know, you don't. But then you don't know until you know, like until you experience it, you just know. Yeah. And that's the same feeling I had towards Clayton.
Well, and being equally yoked is so important, and so, and we talk about it all the time. Is we have acquaintances that are having challenges right now with their relationships and marriages, and I think a large part of that is just not having Christ at the center. So it's very refreshing to hear that you guys
do, and you live it. You speak it and you live it. So since you touched on the Red Key Revolution, I wanted to go there next, Jordan, if that's okay. And then Kristen, I want to come back to you, and I want to talk about oh hey yay vacay. I love that, and I want to dive in a little bit into that. Then I want to get into kind of where you guys are now, if that's okay. So, Jordan, I love the concept of the Red Key Revolution. Would you share that? And I think why it speaks so much to me is Clayton and I having two daughters where we want them to experience the purity that you speak of. And so I'm going to have them listen to this podcast. Hopefully it'll make an impact on them, to, you know, the importance of holding out for what you guys have. So, and what Clayton and I have. So would you share more about Red Key Revolution? Yeah,
absolutely. So I was 13 years old, and my youth pastor at the time shared this powerful talk about sexual purity. And he positioned the talk that not only is a decision of sexual purity going to impact you, but think about the impact that it will have on others and one day your spouse. And so as he finished his talk, he handed each one of us a red key. It looked like an Ace Hardware key that was like dipped in red paint. It was just like old school red key. And I was 13 at the time. He gave me that red key, and I remember putting it in my pocket, and I remember looking up and just saying, God, I am going to accept this challenge, and I'm going to hold on to this red key until one day I give it to my wife. That's my goal. And so I went home and I put that little red key in a safe inside of a drawer where only I knew where it lived.
Wow.
And over the next 20 years, as opportunities presented themselves, I had that tangible reminder in my drawer that I was not willing to give up that red key. I really desperately wanted to be able to give it to someone else and to be able to look back and say, hey, I made a decision a long time ago that I was going to remain pure. So fast forward, it was just shy of 20 years. Kristen and I got married, and I was able to give her that red key on my wedding day.
Wow.
And so, you know, I never intended to write a book, but I was speaking in Atlanta. They asked me to talk about something I hadn't talked about before. And so I kind of positioned my red key story as one of significance. And so I started really kind of thinking about what was the red key decision that I made. Well, the purest decision in life are the choices that we make on behalf of others, even before we know their names. You see, I could visualize Kristen long before I met Kristen. I knew how I would want to feel and how I would want to make her feel the day that I got to meet her. And so the red key was nothing more than a tangible reminder of a decision. It was a symbol of a decision that was made. And so I believe that all of us make red key choices every day. We make decisions on behalf of others. And so if we're going to choose significance, we're going to choose decisions that add value to others. And so that's kind of what Red Key Revolution is all about. It's all about the decisions we make and really pursuing a life of significance.
I love that story. And
she's crying again.
I am.
We might not make it through
So where can people buy your book, first of all? And we can put this in
so I'm in the process of building sites out. The easiest way to get it is Amazon. Amazon, if you prefer audiobook, I actually went in the studio and recorded it. So it's an audiobook is available as well. So Amazon's going to be the easiest way to get it.
Okay. And we can drop that link into.
Yeah, Tim, can you take care of that?
the bio.
So, and I just want to kind of jump in there for a second, honey. So I think, what's I kind of wish it wasn't so impressive, Jordan and Kristen, but it is. And, Stephanie and I have talked about, some regrets that we have is nobody gave us a red key. We didn't have that tangible reminder. We didn't, I was surrounded by, a bunch of men that, the single purpose was, going out on weekends and trying to find women. And so now that I have, now that I've, been saved, and now that I have two daughters who are 16 and 14 and gorgeous, they look like their mama, thank goodness. But it's, I know, and I guess where I get emotional is I know that there are men like me out there, that,
like you were.
Well, right. That's what I mean. Yeah, of course. Like I was, and that, it's not about the relation. It wasn't about the relationship, right? It wasn't about that, to your point, doing something for someone that you haven't even met yet. It was never about a relationship. It was more about the physical aspect. And so it's such a powerful message. I mean, what mom or dad, I know they exist, but what mom or dad, would not want something better for their children, something different, something better. So I just honor, you for, for your commitment.
Well, and it also demonstrates, obviously, the, what's the word I'm looking for? Your dedication, your strength, perseverance, that your resistance to temptation, and the delayed gratification, all of which are qualities for success. So the fact that you did all of that, working towards that goal, it's no wonder why that has also transferred into all the other areas of your life, because success is about delayed gratification. Like you're not going to the bars because you're working so hard, grinding it out to provide for your family or to make more money so that you can, spend more time with your family or go on more vacations or whatever it is you're working towards. So anyways.
Well, can you actually speak to that, Jordan? Because I think it's a great point. And, having that challenge, that red key. And I'm just thinking about all the time I would have saved if I wasn't going to the bars and do it, right? So how did that transfer into, other areas of your life?
Yeah. You think about this, making a decision, right? The word decision comes from the Latin root incision, which means to cut off from. You cut off from the possibility of anything other than what you've committed to. And so if you think about the decision I made at 13, the decision was made, but to stay motivated for almost 20 years to the decision that was made so long ago, I think there's parallels to that in business and other areas of life, right? So as I think about this, success is kind of like adding to our life. We want to add more things, add more business, add more investments, add more things. Significance is really kind of like making cuts. We got to cut out the things that aren't significant in our life. We got to make room for what is significant. And so the book is positioned to, I talk about cutting the selfies. I talk about cutting the glory, cutting the spotlight. Like these are areas of our life that I think sometimes take too high of a position. And so we want to make sure that we really align on what our values and what our priorities are and position ourselves. And as Stephanie just said, a lot of that stems from delaying instant gratification, and those are some things that parallel. You want to say something?
Yeah. And I just want to speak to as well. I know you guys said well, that's not our story. That wasn't my story either. And so I think what's so redemptive about the Lord is even if you are in a position where you're I've already made that decision prior to marriage. Once I came into a relationship with the Lord, I said, from here on out, I am making that decision. And so from that point to when Jordan and I got married, that was a period of purity for me. And so I just want to point out that even if you're not in that situation, you're I've already blown it. You haven't. You can still turn from that and go going forward, make those right choices. And Clayton, it was funny. You said, what parent doesn't want that for their kids? the things that God has instructed us to do, like he's a good father who loves us and he knows like what is best for us. And so the things that he tells us to do, they're not to steal our fun. They're not to steal our joy. That's always what I thought. But it's because he loves us and he knows what is best for us. And when we follow his ways, like that's really when we flourish and we have that significant life. And so, I just think that parallel is cool, from an earthly parent to our heavenly father. It's like, that's why he puts those things in place.
Yeah.
I just had that conversation with my daughter last week, as a matter of fact, saying the same thing about the reason that he's created our universe and the order and all that's in it for our good. And we tend, because we're sinful, we tend to think he's robbing me of some joy I would experience if I went and did this thing that he doesn't want me to do. No, he put those rules in place so that you can avoid the pain that's going to come if you make those bad decisions. So yeah, it's so good.
Yeah.
So Kristen, would you go into oh hey yay vacay? I said that right?
Oh hey vacay.
Oh hey vacay. What did I say? Oh hey
Oh hey yay. Oh hey yay.
I think I was thinking about
the yay. I like the yay.
Oh my God, that's so funny. So can you
didn't know she was a branding expert too.
Not. So can you go into the concept of that? What inspired you to start that, and where? What do you want to accomplish with it?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. So stewardship is very much a value of mine. It has been a value of mine for a long time. But I admittedly love bougie vacations. Like I will
So do
admit
we.
it. I love
So do we.
5-star experience. Actually, when I met Jordan, this is a funny story. He was like, "What is your favorite seat on the plane?" And he meant like window or aisle, and I was like, first class.
And once you go there, it's hard to go back.
So, but however, I also very much care about being a good steward of our resources. And sometimes like those decisions are not always good stewardship. And so I set out years ago, I'm like, I am going to figure out how to do these things for free. And so I really love the points game, like the different credit card points. But when you kind of dive into that world and you start researching, like, what are the best credit cards to have? What are the best points to have? How do you spend them? There's like 80,000 opinions and endless articles that you can read on the topic. And so for probably 2.5 years, I every day would read articles. I literally would make spreadsheets and run the numbers. And then as I would go along with our credit card strategy, I would tweak it based on actual experience. And so we got to the point where we were spending 2 weeks in Hawaii at 5-star resorts, 3 different islands. We were flying business class and we were not paying a dime. And so I started having friends and family ask me, how in the world are you doing this? And so I would tell them, I can't just like tell you simply how to do this. Like I need to show you how to do it. Like I need to show you my screen, because there's 2 big things when you're traveling for free with points. You can either waste a ton of money on the front end where you're not collecting the right type of points, or you're not getting enough points, or it's on the back end where you are, you're spending too many points for what it is that you want. And so I was like, I need to create like a system. I need to be able to show like my friends and family how they can do this too. And so I was like, well, what if I could just show people more than just my friends and family how to do this, so that other families can make these experiences and these memories and it not have to cost them all of this money? Like, what if they could do it more frequently and at a higher caliber? And so that's how Oh Hey Vacay was born. And it's so fun. It's a passion project of mine. And I love it.
So sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, we get texts and emails from families that are at Disney or at some place, and they've implemented the strategy, and
they're like, we never would have been able to go here. And it was only because of your course. And I'm like, families making memories. Like, I know the power of that when you get to travel with your loved ones. And so it just makes me happy to help people do it.
Oh hey yay.
So can you share, where can people find your course? How can they get it? And we'll put that in the bio as well for this podcast.
Yeah, so it is oheyvacay.com, and vacay is VACAY.com.
Tim, can you pop that in there as well?
So
please?
I thought
Thank
Clayton
you.
and I were doing good because he basically runs all of his business, his real estate company business expenses through AMX, and then just pays the AMX instead of paying those business expenses directly. So we flew first class to Italy this summer, and for a family of 4.
That was our first like sleeper,
yeah.
sleeper cabin experience, and it was
amazing.
And it was paid for.
Yeah, it was paid for, but we
and
didn't get the whole.
But I know we're making mistakes. Yeah, the rest of the vacation.
The rest of the vacation we paid for. So I want to learn from you.
We blew all the points on the flight.
Shoot. Yeah, we blew all the points on them. We're missing out clearly because we could have had the rooms paid for too, apparently. So that's awesome. I cannot wait to learn more about that.
So can we? So I'd love to kind of get into if the business experience. Like, so you're both in direct sales.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. So I started in direct sales at 22. So I built with the company for 13 years. And then Kristen and I got married in that journey. Yeah. So really for the last 10 years, Kristen and I worked together on the direct sales side.
And Kristen, you were with another company prior to, and all three of us right now are partnered in the same company together. But Kristen, you were with another direct sales company different from Jordan as well, right?
Initially, yes. I wasn't taking it super seriously yet because I kind of had a plan in my head of what I was going to do. And then when I met him, I came alongside him. We built the company or the team that he had been building before we completely started over and built the team that we have now.
Got it. Okay.
We did that together.
That's awesome.
So can you get into, can we just talk tactical a little bit? Cause I'm curious, cause I know you've built some massive businesses with, is it 2 different companies now or?
Technically 3. We were 3 companies. Yeah.
Okay. 3 companies. So if we can talk just tactical a little bit about, how do you build, 2 or 3 10,000 person organizations? Yeah. Like, can you like go from, what you learned like with your first company and just how you've kind of, how you've built and how you continue to build?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, as I said, I wanted to go to med school, and a doctor is who introduced me to the direct sales network marketing industry. Huh. And he told me that he wasn't seeing his 4 kids. It was really the lifestyle that was attractive to him about the network marketing model. So, I had seen my mom and others do network marketing. I didn't think it worked. I thought it was foolish. I was like, why is the doctor wasting his time selling these silly pills and vitamins? I didn't understand it.
Yeah.
He introduced me to a book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, which I read so many years ago. Also a book called How to Win Friends and Influence People. And so I became a student of personal development. Fast forward, I started to see that what determines your value in the marketplace are your skills. And I realized that just like going to med school and developing skills to become a doctor, there are skills in sales and network marketing. And so I needed to develop those skills. And the most important skill, I believed, was people skills, because regardless of what business you choose to be in, you are always going to deal with people. And so as I increased my people skills, I started to increase the size of my team. And it was a very organic build because I started in 2007. And this is when social media was young. And so most of what we did was face-to-face, belly-to-belly, a lot of hotel meetings and conferences and events and seminars. And so that's where I got a lot of my public speaking experience kind of by default, because that's how we built the business. And so fast forward, after 13 years, we resigned from that company. We co-founded a startup company for a year, and then that company was acquired. And then we've been with the same company with Stephanie here these last almost 3 years. And now the game has changed, right? Now the game is largely virtual. And I would say probably 95% of our volume is generated through social media. And so are the skills of dealing with people still the same? Yes. But I would say that our reach and our scale is a lot bigger now that we're using social media to leverage our reach. And so I think that there's some practical things that have remained the same over our experience, but the overall marketing strategy has changed. So anything you want to add to that about tactical?
Yeah, no, I think that it is. I think it's a lot of the same things, but we just have a different vehicle now with social media. And so it allows it to expand bigger.
Yes, I love that. So I've two questions. One, you said as you developed your people skills, obviously How to Win Friends and Influence People. That was one. I mean, that book, I need to reread it. It's one of those like classic, it'll never ever expire or go out of style.
That book changed our
100%.
our oldest daughter's life.
Yeah. And so same with Rich Dad Poor Dad, like two amazing books. Was there anything else you guys did to improve upon your public speaking skills? Did you go to some events that helped with that too? Did you listen to is there a certain podcast or are there some other books that helped?
Yeah. So, what's interesting is like, you look at us now in 2023 and you read our bio and people are like, wow, they've done some really cool things. But like, I wish people could know me back when I was 22. I made $600 my first year in network marketing. Like I was not a success story. And then even in the next year, I struggled again. I barely made $1,000 a month. And so I just kind of like, that the season of like success was so slow for me. I was like, man, everybody's talking about passive residual income. This thing is not passive. I mean, for every 10 people that start, 10 people, this is a grind.
Yeah.
And I remember going to my sponsor, Dr. Hirschcheck, and I remember I just said to him, I said, this is frustrating. I know if I'm designed for this. And he said it to me. He said, Jordan, if you were 18 months into medical school, how much money would you have made? And that's when it clicked for me. I was like, oh my goodness, I'd be thousands of dollars in debt. I'd have 2.5 years of medical school left, then residency, then fellowship. I wouldn't even start earning a paycheck till I'm probably in my early 30s. So the fact that I've made anything means that I'm a little bit ahead and I don't have debt. So he said, Jordan, what makes a doctor different than the average person? He said, it's their skills. So he said, you've got to develop your skills. What skills have you specifically developed for network marketing? And I realized in that moment, I was just kind of winging it. I was just trying to leverage the relationships that I had at the time, which were football players and basketball players and college students. And none of them had any money and none of them had any influence. So I realized I needed to think differently. And so I started going to personal development events. I started going to Danny Johnson, Tony Robbins, Darren Hardy, eventually some Eric Worre stuff. Like I became a student of studying people I wanted to be like. I started reading, and actually reading because I wanted to, not because I had to. And so there was this process of personal development. And I think that's where the pivot started to happen. And so by 25, that's when I hit my first 6 figures in the direct sales space. And I thought, wow, I was working just as hard, but I'm working differently now. And now I'm starting to learn how to attract people, how to support people, how to duplicate, how to create systems for success. And those next, call them 9 years, I hit records in the company with growth year over year. And so I do think there was a process there. And then I'll say now, my secret sauce is my wife, because, this last 2.5 years, we've built the company together and we've been able to hit numbers and volume and size of team and customer base that I was never able to achieve by myself. And I think that Kristen and the collective genius of us working together, but the feminine nature that she brings to our business has allowed us to scale and elevate in ways I never saw myself. And I think direct sales is more predominantly a female-based industry. So I think there were some dynamics there at play as well.
Yeah, you guys definitely do this together beautifully, for
sure.
Well,
and I think there's just something to a successful marriage, a husband and wife that are working together. You just don't see it that often, and it's one of the things just with Stephanie and I doing this podcast together. Some of the feedback that we've received, it's interesting. It's no surprise to me that Kristen brought a whole nother dynamic to the table. Because I think if people had a choice, they would rather look at and hear from Stephanie as opposed to me. Can I get an amen, Jordan?
Well, hold on real quick before you go on to the next question, because I wanted to follow up to your impact on social media, because this is one thing that I will say I personally struggled with, because I agree with you. I love there's always like a bad thing to every good thing, like the internet is amazing, incredible invention, and yet it can be used for a lot of bad. And as you had started when we started this podcast, and you mentioned that, and we live in this world, and social media has made it 1,000 times worse, where especially on social media, there's a lot of like self-glorification. Look at me, look at me, look at me. And so, and also then too, the amount of time that people spend on it. And so how do you balance all of that to keep the priorities straight and to not let it become the thing that we all hate, if that makes any sense at all?
No, that definitely makes sense. And I think that that's probably a big question that a lot of entrepreneurs or people who are using social media feel. And admittedly, like, we don't do it perfectly. And I think it's something we're always evaluating, but something that we always come back to is like, this is still second to our priorities. And so while consistency is wonderful on social media, and that is gonna maybe grow your business the fastest, is that going to give you the life that you're really wanting at home?
Right.
And so for me, there's just times where, like, our daughter has an ear infection right now. And so the last couple of days, it's just been like, I'm not on social media because I'm with my daughter and I'm taking care of first things first, which is my home and my family. And so I just think part of it too is giving yourself that permission of, sometimes it's not going to fit into the puzzle of the day, and that's okay. And I also think that that's where multiplication and partnering with the Lord also comes into play, because I think that he stretches our time and makes our efforts go so much farther, to where when we honor our priorities and the order of what he's put in place, I feel like he makes the things that we do go even so much farther. And so I will say that when I am doing it like as best as I want to be doing it, I think batching content is very, very helpful, because then you can have those like set time blocked hours where you can record your stories or however it is that you're choosing to build on social media. I think that is really helpful. But then I think it's just giving yourself grace too, and just knowing when to say no, and knowing when the no phone hours are, and honoring those.
Love that.
Yeah. I think to add to that, John Maxwell doesn't believe in time management. Neither do I. He says that just because you grow older doesn't mean you grow wiser. Yeah. So time management is a myth. Priority management is where we need to focus. Yeah. It's priority management. And so as we actually determine what our priorities are, then we start to time block and allot the time, energy, resources, and money to the things that are priorities to us.
Yeah.
And so I think a lot of times people don't take the time to actually identify what their priorities are. And so as we think about our various businesses and investments, they are priorities to us, but they are not the top priority to us.
Yeah.
And so the way in which we manage our time and make sure that we maintain some semblance of balance is by making sure that we're aligned with what our priorities are and honoring those.
Yeah. Sometimes we do that better than others. We're not always getting it right.
I love that.
Is there a, as you were both building, were there certain people, personalities, one of our mentors told us, don't recruit people, recruit teams. Like, was there a strategy when you were, attracting, I guess it's kind of two parts, how, before social, this was, you said organic. So were you just going to conferences, Jordan, and you were having conversations with people and building relationships? That's the first part. And then the second part is, I think the people that are listening to this, because you've both built such a large organization. Once you get into the attraction game, like are people just, are influencers just reaching out to you now? I mean, what does that look like?
Yeah, I'll take the first, you take the second. Yeah. So one of the things Kiyosaki taught me early on is your network is your net worth. And so one thing that I've always prided myself on is my ability to make connections. So if I pulled out my phone right now, I've got thousands of people that I could text or call right now that I would consider a friend or an acquaintance at least. So I have relationships, and that did take time. With my first business, I was representing high-end wellness, nutritional products. And so my customer avatar, if you will, was either an athlete or a former athlete. So I tended to work with, personal trainers, former college athletes, some professional athletes, tennis players, football players. And I think that the direct sales space is actually a great place for former athletes, just because of our competitive spirits, our ability to work in teams. You know, there's no ceiling to what you can earn. And so it was kind of like a scoreboard at the end of each week, right? So we were, you know, this volume game that we were playing of trying to move the scoreboard. I just felt like athletes were a great place for me to attract people that I was like. And I think we can all serve the person that we once were. So naturally that was my focus, you know, in my first business. And in regards to influencers, why don't you?
Yeah, I'll just say, like, it's kind of the same thing on social media. What I was going to say is, like, I think that in general, you want to be serving and speaking to the person that you once were. Like, that's the person that you're probably most equipped to help. And so for us, we were burned out network marketers who were ready to be done with the industry. And we were tired of seeing our people not win for long periods of time. Obviously, businesses ebb and flow. But for long periods of time, when you know, like, it's just not going anywhere and it is time to make that bold move and that change, we were in that place. And so we just kept telling our story and speaking to the people that we once were. And so that is kind of who we started to attract.
But again, going back to people and leaders, right, and influence, I think we would all agree that some people have more influence than others.
Of course.
Now it takes time to grow our influence, but there are certain people that have more influence at this current moment than others. And so as I look at even athletics and Nick Saban and Urban Meyers and some of these really amazing coaches, they've all said, it's not the X's and the O's, it's the Jimmys and the Joes. In other words, it's not their strategy and ability to create a game plan, it's their ability to recruit athletes that are difference makers. And so we've taken the same approach in our business. We're willing to serve and work with everyone. But we know that if we can bring people of influence and help them to heighten their influence, that's gonna allow us to scale a bit faster.
God, that's so good. If you're watching this, I want you to drop in the comments everything, you know, anything that's spoken to you. I keep taking notes of just different words of wisdom that you guys have dropped throughout this podcast. And that's part of the premise of proximity meaning nearness in space and time. And so we believe that's been part of what has brought the success that we have, is just getting in the room and seeking out people who were where we wanted to be.
And continuing to seek those people out.
And continuing to seek those people out. And that's why we do these interviews is we really desire to serve the people that are where we were, just like you said.
Question. Well, and you already nailed it. I mean, early on, you know, you read the books, you went to the conferences, you got in the room with the Zigs and the Tony and the Brendans and the Darren Hardys and you know, it's at some of these events, I would imagine, where, you know, it's that moment where you're like, that light bulb moment that it's like, oh my gosh, like I had no idea that this door was even, you know, there was anything, you know, this door even existed, and I can actually walk through this door. I just wanted to say as well, I think one of the reasons, I was just having this conversation with one of my teams yesterday, one of the reasons that so many people kind of fall short, whether it's, you know, real estate or network marketing, is because they don't have a long vision. You know, they get into it, and for whatever reason, and maybe it's because of the world that we live in, they want that immediate. They think that, you know, I think it was Rohn that used to say the key is to deserve it. The key is to deserve it, right? And so many people just don't deserve it, and they don't realize that because they haven't put the effort in. They haven't paid the price. They haven't gone through the toll and paid the price, right? And so
they haven't delayed the gratification.
They haven't delayed the gratification. So having that long vision of knowing that if I just stick with it and I continue to learn, I can continue to grow, I continue to fail forward, that eventually it's going to hit. And it's not, anyone can do this, but not everyone will. Like, would you agree with that?
Yeah,
absolutely.
You know, going back to the red key, it was like, that was a decision that lasted 20 years. And then the greatest gift that I've been given is my wife. Like, she's the greatest thing that has happened to me.
Amen.
I consider her my greatest blessing, but that was on the back end of a 20-year decision. So I've learned that in business, things take time. And I do believe that because of TikTok and social media, we kind of live in this microwave culture where people want things to happen fast. They want their influence to grow fast. They want the success fast. And I think a lot of times people will commit to something for too short of amount of time, and they don't give it the time that is necessary to really making it successful. And they're planting their flag in so many different ways that they're not committed to one thing. You know, another thing that I would say that has been a contributor to our success is we become we become professionals, meaning we're excellent at one thing before we start adding more. Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of times people try to become excellent at 4 things at the same time, and they're not good at any of them. So we've added, but we've become masters and try to be excellent in one thing at a time.
Mm-hmm. That's so good. Yeah.
So again, just to kind of circle back, because I just don't want to miss this for the people that are listening. Are in the beginning versus now, like, are you still doing like reach outs, Jordan? Like, are you still picking up the phone, or are most of the people, Kristen, are they reaching out to you at this point to say, hey, I want to be a part of, what you're doing? Like, how are you growing the team? That's part one. Part two is, when you have such a large organization, how are you building that culture? Because I know that, when you put all this effort into bringing people in, you want to make sure that the back door is not wide open.
Yeah. So, as far as like creating culture, I do think that's something that we're always like, how can we get even better, at this? Because we also kind of feel like our team is like, it's kind of like, it's our flock that God's given us to like steward and to love on and to serve really well. And so one way that we do that tangibly is we have something we call family meetings every Monday night, where we get on for an hour with our team and we just serve them. We add value. Sometimes we have guest speakers. Sometimes we allow other leaders on our team to step up and share and lead. And then other times we'll do things like breakout rooms, where we will, through Zoom, allow these little breakout rooms to happen, where we'll give them different things to discuss with each other. And that's really where that community and those connections are made, because different people get to coach other people. So it's like 2-pronged. They're connecting, but they're also starting to step into their leadership and seeing that they're able to add value to other team members. And so that's a tangible thing that we do. And then obviously events are definitely a priority. We encourage them as much as we can, because there's nothing like belly to belly in person. So I would say that those are 2 things we do for sure. And then as far as your other question, can you remind me again what the other
was? So physical,
yeah. Yes. So I still would say that we're a little bit old school. I love like recruiting in my DMs. I think that, going out there and sharing your story on your stories and your socials is great. And I definitely think that's going to send leads to you. But unless you're a massive influencer, that's just not that realistic for the average person. So I think everybody needs to do it. But I think that relationships are really where that happens. And that happens behind the screen. Like that happens through the DMs and really having those like personal conversations and touch points. So I would say that for the most part, we do a lot of that, but also I would say just posting.
So ultimately, sorry, go ahead.
No, you got to be, we talk about know, like, and trust, right? So I do think some people have used their social media to build know, like, and trust for years and years and years. So when they promote a product or service, sometimes there's people jumping in to buy it. Neither of us really had that. I mean, we can't just post a link about a product and people just start buying it. A little bit, but I think what we never stop doing is we never stop building relationships. And then if we find an individual that we think we have a solution to them when it comes to starting their entrepreneurial journey, we've got an offering for them. We've got a tangible system that they can plug into to help them see success. So we're constantly looking and building relationships. And if we feel like we have something that would meet a need that they have, we're not afraid to offer it. And occasionally people see what we have and they see our freedom that comes with the entrepreneurial journey that we've been on, and people want that. And so sometimes people will jump into one of our inboxes and want to know how we've done what we've done. And then we have that solution that we can offer.
Okay.
That's fantastic.
Okay. So we're getting short on time. So
yes. Yeah. So I guess in closing, as we wind things down, I could literally pick y'all's brain for another 2 hours at least.
I thought we were going until 5.
I wish.
Yeah. Kristen was like, we only have an hour. Sick child or something.
Keeping her priorities straight. She's a busy mama.
Absolutely.
So at the end of the day, and I know how important faith is in your journey, I'm going to say this is a 2-pronged question. as you're moving forward, and because every journey to success is filled with ups and downs, and we've all seen the success trend. People tend to think it's like this, and it's more like, like this. So when you have those moments where or things are not going the way that you thought they would, or that you hoped that they would, what keeps you pushing forward? Like when you had that red key that was waiting, that you had in the safe, that clearly you had, men, especially today, and temptations are literally thrown at your face 24/7, so something kept you focused on that. What keeps you focused today through your business journey and your faith journey? You can apply it to anything. What keeps you moving forward when things are tough?
Yeah. You want me to take that one, or you want to?
I'll take the first part. I think what keeps us moving forward in our faith journey is just eternity. It's seeing things through a lens of being eternally minded and really what our purpose even is on this earth and what is still to come. So I would say that for us is key. And then you can do this.
Yeah. So what I want listeners to think about is, how do you see challenge? How do you see problems? How do you see adversity? And there's a mindset. Some see it as, I'm the victim, woe is me. Others see it as, okay, here's an opportunity. This problem is causing me to stretch. This problem is causing me to think differently. This problem is causing me to evaluate my situation and figure out what can I do to overcome this obstacle. And so as you start to develop a mindset, when problems start to surface, you actually start to embrace problems. I think about myself as someone that has worked out. When you tear a muscle, it is very uncomfortable. And we know when you survive a workout versus you're really trying to train, man, when you tear a muscle, it hurts, but it's the tearing the muscle that causes growth. And now the muscle can be bigger than it was before. Well, the same is true with our mindsets. The same is true of our hearts. The same is true of our businesses. We have to look at challenges and problems as an opportunity for growth. And if you don't have problems, my guess is you're probably not making much of an impact, right? The more people that we deal with, the bigger our businesses grow, the more problems we're going to have. And so your capacity as a leader to be able to handle problems is what determines what kind of leader you will be. So we've trained ourselves to actually look at problems and say, hold on a sec, let me pause, take a deep breath, let me look at the situation, and embrace it as an opportunity for growth.
Yeah. And I think some people look at like obstacles as, oh, this must mean I'm supposed to stop. No, this is the part where you get to really start to grow into who you were created to be. And so a lot of times too, when we hit obstacles in our business and we teach our team this, like, this is the opportunity for you to grow as a leader, because a lot of times if you haven't been certain places, you can't speak to it. It's very different to speak to something out of theory than out of experience. And so those are those opportunities where, like, this is how you're going to be able to serve people more. This is how you're going to be able to relate to people more. And this is just part of the process of becoming a good leader.
When you read the scriptures and you read stories of Joseph and Daniel and David and all these people and all the challenges they went through. I mean, Joseph, for crying out loud, his brothers tried to kill him or sell him into slavery. I mean, all that he went through for those many, many years. You got 13 chapters in the Bible. 12 of them are like bad. The last one, he's second in command in the largest nation that existed at the time. And so now when challenges come our way, sometimes we just start laughing. We're like, okay, Lord, you got a sense of humor. Like this is good. I mean, this is a curveball. We don't know how to fix this, but like, we see that you are ultimately still in control, and this is an opportunity for us to grow.
Yeah. A lot of times challenges precede promotion as well. And so a lot of times there is something really good and needed around the corner for this challenge.
I love that. So it's interesting because I was just having this conversation with our daughters too last week, and that so often as Christians we'll say to God, can you please give me courage? Please give me strength. Well, he doesn't work that way. He doesn't just drop courage in your lap. Oh, okay, here's your courage for the day or for your life. Instead, what he does is he puts us in situations that require courage or require us to develop that strength that we may not have right now. That's how he works, is when you ask for that, you better be ready for him to put you in some situations
and lean in.
Then lean into it that are going to require those skills to be built. So I love that. That was perfect.
Yeah.
Did you?
And
Yep.
Just to echo that, I want to make sure that like it's not wrong to have some of these emotions like
Sure.
sadness or grief or frustration. Yes. But the question is, how long are you going to allow those emotions to last?
Well said.
Ed Milet talks about this, how he only allows these things to last a few seconds or minutes. Like he'll give himself a moment to be sad or have some grief, but he's very quickly bouncing out of that.
Yeah. And I think one of the prayers that we're constantly praying is, God, enlarge our territory, increase our influence, increase our income, but please do not allow it to exceed our character and what our character can withstand.
That's good.
And so I think a lot of times when we see these challenges, we're like, this is the preparation. And so I think when you're looking through that lens, it's like, a lot of times, if he gave you what you wanted, when you wanted it, it would ruin you. And he knows that. And so that's a lot of times why there's that delay, because you're not ready yet. And so you got to go through that preparation.
Oh, it's so good.
Yeah.
It's really good.
You guys are awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Jordan, welcome to the club. The married up club. Is that what we call it? Yeah. You're officially a member. So guys, thank you. I know you have a little one that's not feeling well, Kristen. So
she's got an appointment to get to too.
So prayers for her. I hope she feels better, and just really appreciate the two of you carving out some time to spend with us today.
Yes.
So just don't forget, you got to seek out relationships with people that are where you want to be. You got to get in the room. These two have gotten in the room over the past 18 years or so, and look at where they are today, and they're going to continue to get into the room. I know they are, because they're growth-minded people. So thank you so much, Jordan and Kristen. Have an amazing day. We'll see you next time.